Good morning, my beautiful people. This is your girl Jada, and we are here with Tay, Ali, and Thomas, and we have a special guest today. We're gonna be talking about education, y'all, and that's something that's definitely, I think it's dear to all of our hearts. We definitely wanted to have something that's going to talk about the way we think of education is, because one, we're currently college students, so we are definitely in education, and a lot of us have recently came out of high school within the last 10 years or so. So let's start off today with a little bit of a couple. We have two topics for you that's just to stimulate your mind and just to give you some information that we thought was really important to just hand out before we get deep and down into the education stuff. So as Black people, we let oppression hold us back from advancing us as people. This is a statement that has been talked about. So let's first talk about, do we agree with the statement? And two, is that something that we actually do? Are we letting the oppression that we experienced years ago kind of hold us back from moving on and kind of taking a step forward in a different direction?
I feel like we do, in a sense. Sometimes I feel like some people do. I feel like it's important to acknowledge it and not act like it's not present. It's happened in the past and it's still happening now in some way, in some forms and fashions. But I feel like we have to be cognizant of when we're letting it deter us from ambitious things that we should be doing, of people feeling like they're not gonna let me do this, or this won't happen, or it can't happen. So I feel like when we get into those spaces and some people get in those mindsets, I feel like that's what holds us back. Because I had a conversation with somebody whose family's from Africa, so he was like, well, he felt like as if sometimes African Americans let it hold him back, because he said when we hit it, we hit the ground running. We don't care about oppression. We don't care about nothing. We just know we got to make it. We got to make this money. So we don't give a fuck who don't like us. We don't care who looking at us sideways. We don't care about oppression. None of that. So I feel like that's the difference between I try to see like what's the difference between us and them, how they like be coming here starting businesses. And I guess that's what I feel like that's the big difference. We think about it too much, but I feel like we need to acknowledge it, but just use that as ammo.
Definitely.
I totally disagree.
So okay, go ahead.
I feel like it just has to do with the education.
I would say this. One, everybody else has a 500-year head start than us. So sometimes stuff can get hard, and a lot of times when I hear people say we use oppression, it's usually, we use our oppression against us. It's usually somebody outside of the diaspora that's usually speaking on it. It's usually somebody who's benefited from our oppression, such as Africans or people from the Caribbean. They'll come over here and be like, Black Americans this, Black Americans that. But when you fill out applications and you try to get ahead, especially Nigerians, which is the highest educated Black people in America, they usually put on there that they're Black, and they usually apply for scholarships that we went through. Another thing too, a lot of the people that come over here and who also say that Nigerians and all of this, you have to take an accountability that they have money too. A lot of these people that come from Nigeria and stuff are already financially stable.
Because it took money to get over here.
It took money to get over here. Not only that, they usually come from good families. They usually have that money. They'll send them over here to get education and come back. We do not have a connection to the diaspora. They do. They have knowledge itself. So it's different when you don't know who you are and you're still trying to figure out who you are. So no, I don't say that. I think just, well, other times we don't see the benefits of our hard work, and a lot of times from our hard work everybody else benefits from it, just like affirmative action. White women benefit more from affirmative action than Black people. Nigerians and other people from the other diaspora benefit more for the struggles of Black people in Congress and stuff.
I think I won't say that I won't fully agree with it, but I won't fully disagree with it either, because I do think that there are moments where that as Black people, we kind of have this where we see we'll kind of have this kind of cognition of we'll see white people and we'll automatically have this kind of wall up, and it's not always done purposefully, but I think that from what we have experienced from other white individuals, from our history itself, and throughout the things that are happening today in our world. So for Black people, that kind of gives us that wall. And I think that is not, we have to remember that every person that is white is not racist. And that's kind of hard for me to swallow and understand, because I don't really get that from majority of the white people that I'm introduced to. So I get it. It's not your fault
that your guard up.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And then too, in a way that is holding you back. In a way that does hold you back. It might not be a major hold back, but it does hold you back. I'm saying like the initial
feeling of it, like you're cognizant of knowing what's going on. Definitely. But then I think we all initially feel that way. I mean, you got to think the way, especially Black people are raised up. a lot of that feeling is what they call PDS, post-traumatic slave disorder. So
Yeah.
a lot of that stuff is just passed on genetically, inherently, and
Definitely.
taught through our customs. So
And you got to think
once
about
you
what we talk
recognize
about
it-
as Black people.
Yeah,
Like
once
it's
you
always a
recognize it,
conversation.
No,
with-
but I feel like I feel like in instances like Jada was saying, it holds some people back, especially because I went through like a training over the week of like minority women in workspaces on how sometimes, a lot of times, they feel like they gotta be passive or don't want to take those leadership roles, or feel like they don't want to be too loud or too. So I feel like in those spaces, it contains like your talent and your potential and how much you can
Definitely.
contribute to the conversation, because you have all of these kind of these
Your guards
ideas,
up.
your guards up, and you got these things in your head like
Yeah.
you don't want to be too this, you don't want to be too
One
that,
of
you
that
don't
time,
want to do that.
intersectionality as
Yeah,
well.
and
Yeah.
exactly.
Being a
And-
woman, being a Black woman,
Exactly.
being in this community. So it's not. I agree with you where like it could be on a minute, small, micro level.
I don't think it's even minute. I think and it affects the bigger picture.
Well,
It's
really
a
what
micro
I'm saying-
issue that affects
so
a
the
macro
reason
problem.
I'm saying that is, and I'm bringing up intersectionality, I won't solely just put on there that we're using that oppression. I think oppression is probably one of the reasons we're in our situations, but there's other factors that put it in that hold you
always.
up. That's all I'm
Always.
saying.
Always,
Like,
yeah. That's why
sexism,
I wouldn't say I
racism,
completely
classism.
agree or disagree,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I wouldn't say I completely disagree with what he said,
Yeah.
because I feel like I never really thought of that. I like,
I think
and I
it
like,
depends on how you
to
look
get-
at it though.
Yeah,
I think
it
a lot of
does.
people use it as motivation.
Yeah.
But I feel like
Yeah.
we have to learn to use it in motivation, because I feel like our
Definitely.
initial way to use it is to intimidate ourselves,
Yeah.
and it be a lot of times more in our head
A lot of
than
times.
anything. We be our
Yeah.
biggest critics.
Because we're so busy trying to read them. I think
Yeah,
that we kind of that is a guard that we put up
Exactly.
while we're reading
Exactly.
them. We put up a guard.
We putting in too much work. We
Yeah,
overthinking.
yeah,
we trying to do our job
definitely.
and
And
think,
read
we're trying to
these
think for
people.
ourselves and think for everybody else in the room.
Yeah, and I think that that just continues to, because we've seen stuff that's gotten done to other people that are the same color that we are, that have been pretty much racially discriminated against, and it's hard for us to see past all that stuff because it's such a huge amount of discrimination that's going on. Period. Whether it's color, women, men, like gay people, discrimination is happening. Period, and that's why because we're trying to read people. Okay, like are you really about to play me, or are you actually being genuine? And that's really what it is, I think.
What y'all think about this? I've been watching a lot of shows lately, and I've been feeling like I feel like I'm glad that they're talking about it, but I feel like they're pushing like the oppression of Black people and everything into every little thing. Like I saw a show, it was about like a high school teacher, and so it was like, what's the history of America? It was like and it was like this girl, she raised her hand, she was like, well, they stole from this, they stole from that, and they oppressed the Blacks, and they oppressed, and I'm like, I want to acknowledge it, but I don't think that should be in every sector of like, because I feel like that's just reinforcing this. Like everywhere you turn, you like, we oppress, we oppress, we oppress. So I feel
exactly
like
what they doing.
What do y'all feel about that?
That's exactly what they're doing. Look at. I'll use a perfect example. Look at CNN and Fox News Network around the times we had mass shootings. People get shot every day, B. You're not trying to be funny. People get shot every day, B. But the people that they show, they'll continuously show videos of Black men getting killed, dying. But when you go on YouTube or you go on anything else, if you see, remember when they had the cartels and they was doing the mass headings and all of that stuff, they'll take that off the internet real quick. But when it comes to us, they reinforce those stereotypes, or they'll reinforce those images of us being killed to scare the people. Malcolm X said the one who controls the media controls the mentality of the people, and that's actual fact. So I would say that one of the things we have to do as Black people is control the agency of who's being talked about.
Control the narrative.
Yeah, you got to control the narrative. So in effect, like perfect example, I hate that they teach in school that we were slaves. My ancestors didn't start off as slaves.
Exactly.
You know what I'm
Enslaved
saying? So,
people.
We didn't
or
just
even when
pop
they
up
teach
over
in
here.
school now, they talking about if
Like-
if you talk to some kids, they talking about it servitude. Like they'll try to teach that it wasn't even slavery and not even use that word.
I wish
So
motherfuckers
we
would.
have to control the narrative because that they are doing that.
Oh my gosh. Well, I definitely think that it's something that we all kind of, and maybe I think we're all cognizant of when it comes down to when we're doing it. I just don't think that it's something major. Like, I don't think it's holding our people back. Like, I really don't. I think that the fact that we're actually talking about it and actually like making sure that our children know about the oppression that we experience and making sure that everybody really knows about the oppression that everybody's experiencing, I think that that's important. I just don't think that I think it's something that we have to be cognizant of when we're looking at other human beings and when we're actually trying to communicate with other people, and because we're in a world full of different races, regardless.
You said something one time in a conversation we had. I think it was you, but we was talking about like why I wasn't going to watch had they seen us. I'm not watching
when they see us.
Yeah, when they see us. I'm not watching it. I haven't watched it yet. And I was saying I'm tired of seeing movies like that, and my mentality right now isn't stated for it. And I think you were saying like sometimes stuff like this needs to be shown.
It does.
So that other people can know the experiences. So I get it. Some of this stuff does need to be shown so that other people can know what's going on to us and see it. Because believe it or not, it'll be people that think that we're lying.
Yeah.
Like, you're lying about police brutality. Thank God for smartphones.
Like,
you know what I mean?
Thank God.
What's the old boy that got his ass beat? Rodney King.
Oh, yeah.
Rodney King was like the
That was
first
the
video.
first.
That was the first video
That
of
was the
police
beginning.
brutality caught on television. And nobody believed that this was happening to us. So in some instances, we do need to see it.
Yeah, but I feel like it's a time and a place for it. It don't have to be everywhere and embedded every day. I'm like, damn, I can't just watch a comedy little skit and
I agree.
enjoy
I think they're
myself.
trying their best to try to make it normal.
Yeah.
They're trying to normalize
They
it.
normalizing it.
But I just definitely think that we just need
Sometimes I want to be the
make it
superhero,
aware.
though.
Yeah, we need to make people aware of when we're being manipulated as people, because that's what it is. It's a manipulation. And then we also need to make it aware of when it actually does need to be seen and when stuff actually does need to be heard, because there are certain stuff like I don't even think, I'm gonna be honest, if I didn't see that show When They See Us, I probably would have never really known about it. I probably heard about it in school.
That's good,
but
though.
I didn't.
That's good though. Yeah,
So,
and that's what I was
so
saying.
it did
when I
something
said
good
that.
for me.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I think that it's good in other options, but like I think that in other ways it does get a little bit overdone.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna move along. So this is exciting, you guys. You know, we have the election coming up. The 2020 election. There was recently a Democratic debate, y'all, and it was heated. It was definitely extremely heated. They say that I'm gonna say her name right, Kamala, because that's how you're supposed to say it. Kamala Harris. And Joe Biden. They said that they were probably the two top ones that were made the most pretty much statements, the most hardest statements going on. And then also that I was really surprised that Andrew Yang didn't say nothing, y'all.
Well,
not much. She didn't say much.
Some people when you get that camera in front of you.
Well, I would say this. If you watch both of them, because like if you watch the first segment, because it's 20 people running for office, so they had to break it into two.
A lot of them.
So when you watch these political debates, they already have certain people who are kind of acting for the popular ones, and so what they'll do purposely is tailor. So what you as a person that's running in politics have to learn is just like during an interview, you got to know when to insert your input in. And so I think with people like Andrew Yang and other guys that's on there, this is the first time that they're being very vocal. But like the guy from the mayor from New York, he was like, y'all not gonna cut me out.
I'm about to be talking. Like,
the former Texas congressman from Texas, Berg, phenomenal. He was getting his opinions out. You just gotta know how to take charge.
And you gotta understand. It's very important in politics, especially for the presidential candidacy. You have to be a character, not be outside of yourself, but somebody has to remember you. When you think of Obama, you think of he's smooth. He can get his point across.
And this is signature right here.
He's an eloquent speaker. He's an eloquent speaker.
Amazing.
Trump. He's brash.
He's gonna catch
he
your
doesn't
attention.
give a fuck. He has it's a character that you have to have, and you have to make sure that that's shown. So you gotta market yourself because people are gonna forget you if you don't.
Not only that, sometimes I've learned too with politicians. You only speak when you are familiar with the information.
Exactly.
Or you have to
They're not gonna open their mouth for something they don't know.
Don't think that they're not just talking because they're not. Some of them, when we're speaking on different topics, they're more informed than others. So they'll use like I can't remember the guy's name, but he's on the first debate. The Asian guy who was talking about HR 40 and stuff. He's more in tune with that bill. He talked way more. So you'll notice when it's part of the governments that they're talking about, certain candidates to step up a little bit more.
So what I really wanted to also get a certain moment to speak on is that what I started to realize is that I wanted to also talk about like what are some of the things that they were endorsing and what are some of the things that they weren't endorsing. I first wanted to really speak on how pretty much Harris, she definitely like I feel like she just she definitely was going for the individuals of civil rights. She was going for like pretty much. I believe that it was like all of her topics that she was speaking on. She was going definitely hard for Black people, and she also definitely was going for the healthcare system. When I say that as well, when I say that as well, we would also want to speak on Bernie, because Bernie also wants to go ahead and give us all free health care.
You want to give us the world.
But that will tax us. That will definitely tax us. So that is something that's interesting. And I also want to speak on Yang. Because he did not say this in the debate, but he did say this on the early morning show. No, it was a show that he came on, and he pretty much wants to. He does want to give us $1,000, but if he gives us $1,000, then that means that you won't get any other government benefits.
No housing insurance,
it won't be any housing. It won't be any of those food stamps.
Oh, it's a choice. Okay, I like that.
You can either get the benefits or you can get the $1,000.
Okay, I like that.
So my question then becomes, okay, so what really is it benefiting if it's not doing no more than what our care for the state is giving us anyways? Because now you can get both. It's different if you can get both, then it's benefiting in different kinds of ways.
It's tailored.
They just keep the people that's already on top. They got an extra band in their pocket.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, what his ideology of it is, and speaking to him on different platforms, his whole take of it is everybody doesn't qualify for welfare. Everybody doesn't qualify for government assistance.
No, but
so he's looking at it from, he uses an example, a college student. Let's say you're a college student and you're working and you can't really work and you don't, like, I tried to apply for food stamps in college. They told me, they approved me for like $20. What is $20, $30 going to do for me? You know what I mean? So as somebody that's in college that's trying to work, focus on their studies, that $1,000 could benefit you.
But wouldn't you say that's only benefiting to a certain level of people?
That's why it's a choice.
Yeah. And that's true, but that's why I come down to the question of if it's not really benefiting the lower class, then how are we really helping? It's only helping really the middle class and the ones that are above.
Did you also see what they were trying to do with the minimum wage? Making it
bringing it up to 50. But that wasn't Yang. That was the was that the gay white one? The gay white, because there is a gay white man that is actually going to be a Vermont.
Probably not
somewhere.
It's somewhere.
He up there, maybe New Hampshire or something.
I can't remember.
I think it's Philly or somewhere.
Honestly, I would say that makes a statement. I think that we're actually moving into like a different area where we're actually being definitely, if not accepting, at least letting everybody have a chance. And that's what I think is important as people.
One of the topics that I felt like the Democratic Party is split on and was kind of hypocritical on is universal health care. I don't agree with universal health care in a sense of everybody paying for Medicare and Medicaid and everybody providing that, because Medicare doesn't cover everything that you do. And what they're talking about is creating the universal health care. Like, okay, they'll say abortion and birth control, these things should be optional and there should be a choice. But then they'll say on the other end, but we should control all of health care. That's hypocritical. You're taking out private companies out that do private health care. Everybody's situation is different. Right. So what I need tailored for my family, if I had 3-4 kids, is totally different. You cannot support a family on Medicare with 4 kids. Trust me. Government insurance is not that great. Trust me. The military uses TRICARE, which is a government insurance. If they only recognize you in certain states. So even as a military soldier, if I would have got hurt in South Georgia, but I'm stationed in California, I wouldn't have been covered. I would have had to come out my own
that's
pocket.
What he was saying. He was saying you'll be able to go to any hospital that you want to go to.
Right, but still, you're still going to be going through Medicaid, right? And that doesn't cover everything. So as somebody like me, I rather go outside of a private. I would rather use a private entity for healthcare, because my situation, especially being a veteran, is totally different than yours. There's a whole universal and then choosing packages is limited. I don't believe in taking people's choices away. Definitely. So if you're advocating for a choice in abortion, then I should have a choice of what type of healthcare I use as well. Don't tell me I only got one choice, because then what happens is when we slowly give our rights away, other things slowly becomes to where it's government control. It's a trickle down effect. I don't trust it.
Yeah, that's very true. I just think that it's definitely something that we need to be paying attention to now, because this is important, y'all. I think that it was definitely interesting just seeing them seeing how everybody's demeanors were, how they reacted to stuff. It was the first time I actually paid attention to Biden and actually looked at and actually listened to what he was saying, and kind of went, because for the longest I kind of just thought he went along with everything Obama said. And did. So I mean, that's just
when you think about
it. It's funny that you said that, because sometimes Biden reminds me of that guy that goes to Georgia State that's a white guy and pushes, he's a professor, but he pushes liberal ideas, but secretly deep down inside, he has some racist agendas or racist histories.
I hope not.
Well, we seen him with the KKK and all
You
of this
right.
and civil
Fair
rights
enough.
bills and
That's
certain
true.
stuff like that with John Lewis. So a lot of people think because, he cool with Obama, he's for the people. Everybody
That's
that takes a
true.
picture with a black person or pushes his thoughts is not one of us.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I think he knows that because at the end of the day, you're the vice president to one of the most known presidents in the world, and it's
Right.
always gonna go down in history.
The smoothest
When Obama died, he
president
gonna
in
be
the
on
world.
some dollar bills,
Right.
the 2000 coin or something. He's the
Oh.
first black president, so you gotta know as the VP of the very first black president in America,
Right.
you gonna have to deal with that forever. Like that's
Forever.
always gonna be.
You're
So y'all inviting them to the cookout?
I might.
Hell no.
I might.
Honestly,
I'm
what
telling him,
speaks
hey,
to
you can
me-
bring a +1, preferably Obama.
Honestly, what speaks levels to me is about Biden is that he actually when he was approached about like what happened with the
Grand Master,
the KKK he
Grand
pretty
Wizard.
much he's actually answering it and he's actually confronting it and he's not trying to like hide it.
I
or
respect
something.
that.
So
I respect
I respect that, and I also respect that. For those of you who don't know, our mayor, the Atlanta mayor, she actually endorsed him. So
Okay.
I will say I do respect it. I won't say that it weighs my decision one way towards another.
So did
I just
John
simply
Lewis.
respect it.
A lot of folks
So
do.
I really do. So I'm gonna take their endorsement and then at least give him a chance and
Yeah.
listen to what
And
he's saying.
What I have to understand too about politics, if it's a white politician and they've been in politics for a long time, like Hillary, like Biden, who's been in there for 30, 40 plus years, it's gonna be some things that they did. It's
Right.
gonna against black
and these
people.
are human beings, y'all. So we have to remember nobody's perfect. We've all done some shit.
Yeah.
So
Everybody has been in. Even Bernie Sanders, he was on board with the 3 strikes thing.
It's a
so it's
reason,
like,
though.
it was
Yeah.
a reason. It was
That-
he
that
needed something else to get
definitely,
past.
yeah.
It's always
Y'all
No,
tripping.
well,
He was
see-
down with the KKK. I ain't,
who Bernie?
No,
I ain't
Bernie.
talking
Talking
about
about But
Biden.
with the
I'm
Bernie
not
situation,
I ain't forgiving that.
I'm not
Three
saying
strikes
forgive it. I'm
and
saying
all
at
that.
But
least
his
listen
current,
to what
current
he's
agenda though.
saying. I'm saying listen to what he's saying. Go
I'm not
beyond his
supporting
past.
I understand
And
you
then you got
to
that.
be weary, but still do the research.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not gonna tell y'all who I'm endorsing, but
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know who I'm endorsing yet to even tell
I
y'all.
gotta
But,
get that. I gotta get deeper into
But
it.
Yeah.
but these are the reasons we have these conversations, and this
Yeah.
goes back to what we was talking about earlier, even with the racism thing. It's like, are you really one of my?
That's
And
true.
that, and that ties into politics as well,
That's
as
so
you
true.
see. Are you really talking? Are you really being for the people? Because a lot of black people will argue and say Barack came in there and
A
they do
lot.
a lot
Yeah,
for black people.
A lot of people will
You see what I'm
argue that.
saying?
Yeah,
And
So
that's another
yeah,
conversation for another day.
yeah.
yeah, definitely a whole nother conversation, a whole nother topic for
That
another
should
day.
have taken us on forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. We just wanted to give y'all. So we'll definitely be doing this throughout all of our maybe not every single show, but majority
We
of
gonna
our
give y'all
shows. We're
updates,
going to give
so.
y'all updates of the election because we definitely want to make sure that everybody is involved in this election. Like literally, it don't
Yeah.
matter if you old enough to vote, your butt need to get up and vote.
can't wait
Yeah, and we
So-
gonna be making sure we keep y'all posted
Yeah.
on the vid, man. Every week we gonna
Yeah,
come
yeah,
with
yeah.
something. We gotta stay on this, man. We gotta get out and vote, and we gotta start making some moves in this politics game, man.
Yeah, because that's the only way we really can make
impact.
a long-lasting impact.
Yes.
So, we're gonna move along to our interview, you guys. And I know you guys have been waiting for this education part because we're gonna get deep down into the juicy stuff.
Her favorite word.
Yes, I know, y'all. I get a new word.
need to
for y'all.
copyright
I get a new word, just like I
The
get y'all a new
juicy stuff.
hairstyle every show. But I give it to
every
you.
show.
We gotta move on to the interview. So if you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, I know you do definitely teach. What grade you teach, and how you feel as a teacher. Yeah.
Well, you know, I teach first grade. My name's Tashaka Bailey. First of all,
Yeah.
I teach first grade at Woodson Park Academy, which is on the west side of Atlanta. It's an APS school. It's the poorest district in Atlanta. And next year I'll actually be at KIP, which is taking over at Woodson Park. And how I feel, man, I love it, man. It's what I'm passionate about. You know, I was sitting here listening, and a lot of things that we talk about, man, are like I feel like there's more symptoms of a deeper issue. And I look at education as like as the source of a lot of our problems. So you talk about
Yeah.
oppression. It's like
the base.
oppression is a fact. You know what I'm saying? And so there's different types of oppression. You got physical oppression, you got mental oppression, you got political oppression, you got economic oppression. And education is the root, because not schooling, but education, being educated on what those different types of oppression look like. You know what I'm saying? How they manifest themselves. And so it's like I look at my role as an educator as I'm there to make conscious what they don't see. You know what I'm saying? So I teach small children, but I also can make them conscious of the problems in their community and how they can be a part of solving those problems. And so, you know, man, I think being an educator, people tell me all the time, they're like, oh man, it's great that you do it. And it's like, and I know it's hard, and it's like, it's hard, but it's also like a growing experience. You know what I'm saying? So I love it because I get to, every day's new. You know what I'm saying? The children, they charge you up. Man, I love it, man. It's and I think everybody needs to be an educator. Whether you're
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
Real
whatever
talk.
you do, you need to be an educator. Like whatever you're good at, you need to give that to the world. You need to
That's
give that
true.
to the children. You need to give that to the people
Knowledge
around
is
you.
nothing if you don't give it to somebody.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
my question for you is, how important is male educators, and especially black educators? Because when we look at the information, we see that there's only actually 2% black male teachers in the entire nation. So you're like a unicorn.
Oh, they need us to carry big things. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm used for a lot. No, they need to see us, man.
But like, how important is it though, like, to have you in that space?
You know what? I really, at first I was like, you know, I do it, but every time you, oh man, we need more male educators, and it's like, I do see the impact. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether it's from the men and the little girls. You know what I'm saying? Just seeing somebody like them that's teaching. Like
Right.
I'm working at a program this summer, man, and it's a lot of older women, and it's like they have the basics down. They know how to teach reading and writing, but they don't speak their language. You know what I'm saying? And so even though I'm a little older, but I also come from a time where I'm still involved in social media. I'm still involved in the things that they're involved in.
You're a millennial.
So absolutely. I can speak their language.
Exactly.
And so, and that's, I believe, as a new educator, that's my superpower. You know what I'm saying? Being able to go in there, speak their language, because teaching is about introducing children to the unknown through metaphors. And so it's like, okay, I don't get this concept. Okay, let me use your language. You know what I'm saying? And so they don't speak that language. You know what I'm saying? And it's not their fault. It's just they come from a different environment. And so it's like what I look at as a male educator, I'm like, all right, man, look, I'm going through some of the things you're going through. Do you know how many times like people tell me, oh, I've never had a man teacher. Can I be in your class? Like, and it's
That's dope though.
Yeah, man, it's fun.
I want to know how your discipline is with the kids. Like, what's your
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, it's a great question.
I see them.
I truly have a problem.
Great question.
Yeah, because I truly have a problem with teaching. Like you said, everybody should be an educator, but everybody can't be an educator. But a lot of people are going into the education field, and they're going into the education field, and the people that need the main focus, that need the most attention, they're not getting the attention. They're just kicking them out of class, and they're just doing stuff like that. So I just want to know, what's your disciplinary like?
You know what? I'm still growing in my discipline, and as a man, it's actually they don't challenge me as much as a man, and so it's like they're not gonna try me now. You have so many mental issues, so they're going through so many things where you have to acknowledge that. And so for me, I don't challenge them. Like, this is like an age old thing. You correct them in private. You know what I'm saying? And praise them in public. That's like an age old thing. And so you really have to be like that. You have to not. Like, they want you to come back at them. And so when you try to go toe-to-toe with a child, you're not going to win. Or whether you think you won or not, you're not going to win. And so it's like, for me, it's just about, you know, I would say being an example for them. So, like, you tell them not to get mad, not to do this, not to do that. You need to be like that. And so what I do is sometimes, a lot of times, I'll check myself, and I'm like, all right, I can't let you make me mad. You can't make me mad. You know what I'm saying? Now, what I need you to do something for me, but I'm always explaining to them why I need you to do this for me. I'm trying to be like, all right, look, sometimes some of this stuff I don't believe in, but at the same time, you have to learn it. You have to do this. You know what I'm saying? And so just being not like, I start my lessons helping them understand why math is important, why reading is important, why language is important. It's not like I just start teaching you stuff and then you just got to know it. It's like, no,
you got to see the bigger picture.
Yeah,
you got to help them see the bigger
so they inspire them to want to learn it and understand why it's important, even though it may not seem relevant to your situation. You know what I'm saying? And so my discipline is just is not challenging them. You know what I'm saying? Listening to them. You know, just giving them time to cool out, and when sometimes I gotta raise your voice, you gotta be a lion. Sometimes you gotta bring it with children.
That's cool. I'm just trying to make sure you ain't one of them teachers that just be kicking everybody out.
Oh, no.
That used to happen to me when I was younger. I saw how it affected
And
me.
that's what I was
That shows my
ask you
weakness.
about too, because a lot of the times that I've seen is that we'll put the child out or we'll diagnose them with behavior problems
Because you don't want to deal with
because you
them.
don't want to
feel
deal.
me?
Do you see that where like a lot of our children, because you
I
work
love
in
the
a
bad
low,
ones. I love it.
you work in a low income area, so a lot of times they think that people that come from low income, like we don't have no discipline or that we're dumb. What would you say about that, especially even with the testings?
Man, I heard this quote. It said, "We don't need more disciplined teachers. We don't need the children. Don't need more discipline. The people teaching them need to become more disciplined. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like you can't tell them to be disciplined. You're not disciplined. You know what I'm saying? And there's things that you're trying to become that you can't become, but you're telling a child to sit down, be quiet, shut up, walk up. You know what I'm saying? It's very prison like to me. And so it's like I'm not that person. I want what education is not about. Imparting facts. It's not a banking system. You don't give them, you don't just impart information, you know, trying to get something out of them. What you're trying to do is you're trying to bring out their personality. And so you're trying to make them a better version of themselves. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily telling them what the world is like. Yes, you're giving them an overview of what the world is like, but you're also telling them, okay, you can change the world. The world hasn't always been this way. I'm not telling you this is how it always will be, but I'm telling you, you need to understand it. Like, and back to what y'all were saying earlier, I had a child the other day. He was like, man, I don't want to have to go anywhere where I have to pretend to be somebody. And I'm like, you know what?
First grade, he's saying
Wow.
that?
Well, okay, on the summer I'm working with rising fourth graders.
That's
So
still
he's a
young
little
to
older.
acknowledge that.
Exactly.
They're still young, though. They're in
And
elementary
that's
school
the point I was
having
saying
these type of
earlier,
conversations.
like how it can hold you back sometimes.
Definitely.
But you have to, at the same time, you unless you have a certain amount of money, you can't just act how you want to. You
Yeah,
can.
that's true.
But you have to be
Cognizant
cognizant
Yeah.
of the way people perceive
Yeah.
you. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
that affects you. That affects your opportunities. You know what I'm saying? So you can't just act how you want to all the time. Now, when you're by yourself, you can do that. But when you're in public, you need to be performing, just like y'all were talking about the politicians. Everything's a performance, man.
Yeah.
Every environment,
Yeah.
you're performing differently. You're using different language. You're positioning yourself. Everything. You're always speaking, man. You have to be. And children have to be cognizant of that. You can't just be who you want to. That's where the discipline comes in. I'm like, all right, look, I'm trying to teach you to just have some poise about yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, be cognizant. You're doing certain things that would be perceived as unintelligent, and just so that's why you have to learn how to just behave in a certain way in certain environments. You know what I'm saying?
I don't feel like a lot of people know the importance on teaching. I don't feel like my bad. Let me get it right. So basically, I just feel like when it comes to teaching, many teachers aren't respected as far as what they do for kids. Your kids are around teachers for a majority of their lifetime. You feel me?
Yeah.
And it's just like the effect that a teacher can really have on you is tremendous. So just like when you think about certain things, and even when we go back, like when we were little kids, we used to play football, we used to play basketball. We felt like we were talking junk to each other, like we were aware, like. But when we go back and we look at little kids now and they playing football or basketball, look like they don't know what they doing and certain stuff like that. So you just gotta think about the effect that a teacher can actually have on somebody at that level. And that's why I don't know. I just feel like teachers should get more respect. Like over there in Asia, they actually getting paid 6 figures to be a teacher.
Yeah.
But over here, they don't get that same type of respect.
Absolutely. I mean, teaching is really a divine task. You know what I'm saying?
is.
So
It's
like,
so
we don't
important.
Think of it as important
Way
as
important.
other people do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And I think with us being so young and so close to it, like we just got out of that system of, and we're still in it, but I'm talking about like the high school, middle school, elementary school system that we definitely see it. And we definitely saw how certain teachers made a huge impact on us and other teachers made a not so great impact on us in other ways. So I think that I definitely see the difference between a teacher that actually cares and a teacher that just doing this because she want a paycheck, or the teachers that pass students for grades and then don't pass students for learning. And that is also harder because it's like, okay, how do you expect me to get onto the next grade if I haven't learned this truly?
Exactly. I feel like another thing teachers need to start doing more is asking why. So you're acting out why. So like he was saying, like pulling people in private.
Definitely.
When you got to correct something, pull them in private and ask them why. Because sometimes you might be the only person asking them why. What's going on with you? Because a lot of sometimes they may not be getting that at home where they can express themselves, or they getting reprimanded like this in other classes too. So they building up a wall. So I feel like what teachers got to do is be cognizant. They are people. They have feelings. They are young, but they go through emotions too. So sometimes you got to sit there and ask why, and that make the world a difference, because then they can feel like, damn, somebody give a fuck.
They're more emotional. They're more emotional. They just can't express it. They don't know. They don't have the words to express their emotions. They are pure emotion. That's what they are. So everything they do is off of emotion.
What do you do outside of school to like, just help the kids out, like give them gifts, anything like that? You do anything like that?
Oh, within my class, I'm always, I'm reaching out to my network. I see a kid with messed up shoes. I'm reaching out my network. People are getting them shoes.
That's
they got to eat.
Like that,
they FaceTime me all summer. You know what I'm saying? Like
just like when we did
that's
the pizza, it was like, hey,
absolutely.
we trying to, because all the parents don't got it.
Oh, I'm working on my own programs too. It's coming.
So like he
It's
posted
coming.
like, hey, anybody want to contribute? You know what I mean? Like he goes above and beyond. But I got a question, like, what made you? Because you talented, bro. I've been knowing you for a minute. Like, what made you want to be an educator? Because they don't get paid that much. Like
my grandfather.
Your grandfather.
100%. I was doing music. I'm rapping coming out of high school, and my grandfather died. My grandfather was always an educator as far whenever, as far as I've known him. You know what I'm saying? And he was a professor. But come to find out, as I started to study his works, he taught at every level. He taught elementary, he taught middle, he taught high, then he ended up at Georgia State, and he started the urban education department at Georgia State. And so, when he died, I just started to read his books and look into his works, and I was like,
That's
you know
great
what?
to have that to look back
He
on.
gave me that perspective of like, okay, education is the root. So we got to go to the root. You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
and that's dope that you can go back and look at your father, your grandfather's work. Didn't they just do something at Clark or Morehouse for your grandfather?
We donated his a lot of his literature and his some of his archives to. It's at Clark Atlanta and the Morehouse Library. So
that's
you
dope. Like when you finally have children and stuff like that, like that's something that you can go back and you can go see, and it's like dope that you can continue your grandfather's legacy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like it's not that many black men, so I commend you for that.
No,
bro.
I appreciate you. Definitely.
I just commend you for working on kids, working with kids, and working on kids.
Yes,
reaching back.
So
that's our future.
How has teaching made you a better person or a better man?
You know what? It just makes me more self-reflective. Because like I said, man, like it's not hard to teach. It's hard to be a great teacher because you have to, every single day, you have to think about the way you are being perceived. And I only say that to say, like, I don't want to tell these kids anything that I'm not doing. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to be everything that I tell them to be. And so it's like, these kids look up to people that are rich and making money. So I'm still trying to get rich. I'm still trying to make money. I'm not out here just being a teacher. I do other things. I'm a human being. You know what I'm saying? And I have all types of ideas, and I'm working on all types of things. But every day I go home and I get to reflect on my interactions with the children, and that makes me want to be better. It makes me understand that I have to reach a certain level for them to be a real inspiration to them. You know what I'm saying? And so I want to be that. I want to be the guy that they look up to. You know what I mean?
Dope. That's dope.
Yeah. So I have a question about as far as testing, and I know that as testing goes, do you honestly think that testing actually is a good measurement of whether or not a child knows? Okay, there we go.
No. It's all testing is a lot about language, so it's very cultural. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so our children aren't exposed to that to testing language on an everyday basis from when they're born to when they start testing. And so, I hope I get this quote right. They say if you're trying to reform a school, you can't do that with testing because it's like trying to. I'll just say this. Testing is not a reflection of their intelligence. It's a reflection of a certain type of intelligence. And so it's like, just because they don't know a word that represents a certain concept doesn't mean they're not capable of understanding that concept.
That's so true.
It's a very poor reflection. So I think one of the ways to combat that is we need more education outside of school. We need supplemental education systems outside of school.
So what can we do to improve that or influence or expose our children to these other testing languages? What needs to change in the education curriculum? You know what? I don't know that the solution is going to come from the curriculum. Like, it's people fighting out every day. I'm trying, but they don't. There's a concerted effort against that type of curriculum, and I can give you the history of why that is, but it would take a long time. And so, but there was never an intention to educate us to be leaders. There was never an intention to educate us to be at the forefront of technology and things like that. And so it's like, though it's
it's becoming, there's more opportunities for that now. America's behind other nations in
Yeah.
education.
That is so true.
To
Way
look up,
behind.
to think that black people are gonna be fully educated in school. School is not enough. You need like I said, you need education outside of school, after school.
So
Some
like
programs.
trades.
Yeah, well, yeah, trades, but absolutely trades, but trades along with the notion of ownership. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna teach them a trade, you need to teach them. Okay, you need to learn this trade so you can teach other people and become an owner.
So like
become
learn
a-
how to be a barber,
Yeah.
but then learn how to
Own
own a barber shop.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So you talked about the language, and I think that's very important, like the language on the testing. So like you said, it won't change within the curriculum, within the system. So what can parents do to better prepare their kids for that testing language?
Read. My grandfather
Yeah.
just say read.
Right.
You got to read a lot. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah,
like
we don't read no more.
We
Yeah,
don't. I read
yeah.
a lot.
I read.
Yeah.
Y'all don't read.
No, I'm reading more. I'm reading more. I
Outside
did Wall
that,
Street Journal,
that-
stuff
like that's
that.
one thing because I do pick up some of the books that you
I'm trying
you
more
post.
definitely
So it's
to do
like
that.
it sometimes it gets hard, especially being a college student, because you have
Yeah.
so much reading that you have to do for
Yes.
the curriculum.
That's true.
That's what
So
makes
when
it
you
hard.
try to get outside and
Yeah.
read something on your own,
Well,
you just
Like,
gotta
I can
find
only
the
read in
time.
the
Well,
summer.
see,
I
I'ma
can't
say
read
one
during
thing,
school
'cause
time.
I find the time.
This is where another reason I say like I wasn't given the same type of advantage or the same type of time as all the other kids when I was younger. You feel me? So when we had like AR testing, I don't know if y'all still do things like that with like the reading level stuff like that. So once you get to a certain level, you're supposed to be reading like harder books, more challenging books, stuff like that. My teacher literally would let me go to the little animal section and I could read all those books and I could take all my tests on those books.
Oh, yeah,
So
I
I know a
remember
lot
that.
of information
I remember
about
that.
animals. But I remember the first book I tried to pick up was Harry Potter, and going from an animal book to Harry Potter, I was
Yeah.
like, I'm never. I actually got
That was
written up
probably not
because
a
I
great
used to say
book
books
to
are for throwing, not for reading.
transition
And I used to
from.
throw books all the time. So like, books, big ass books, I'm throwing that junk.
Oh,
You
my
feel me?
God.
But
That's
that
just
speaks to
my-
a bigger picture of a bigger
It
problem
does.
that was
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they used to let me get away with things like that, and I just feel like nobody really cared about me not doing the things that I.
You gotta write. We
needed
gotta
to
write.
do.
We gotta write more. We need
Yeah.
more,
That
more black
definitely
writers.
too.
Shit, professor
more black
said we don't know
animators.
how to write now.
Yeah.
They
I
need more
definitely
material
see
for
the
them to want to
importance
read,
in
like you
that.
said. You know.
Yeah.
I feel like something too that'll be helpful with that because with me, when I was in the third to until like the fifth grade, they were trying to hold me back because they said my reading wasn't up to par. I was behind. I was really behind in my reading. So they was trying to get my mom to pay for Sylvan Learning, and they was trying to hold me back, put me in other classes.
Right.
My mom was like, "He gonna be fine. Just keep going."
Yeah.
And so she bought me books and Berenstein Bears books, stuff like that, to make me
And it helps.
and it helped. But what really took me to the next level with my reading was. I went to a school in DeKalb County. I forgot what it's. I think it was Murphy something. It was something in DeKalb. But she she had read this book to us called The Lightning Thief by Percy Jackson. It's about Greek mythology.
Jesus,
I like
I
the
know
movie.
that
I love
book.
Greek
The movie was
I
great.
read that
The
in
books
fifth
were great.
grade. I
Were
know
better.
exactly what you're
But
talking
what
about.
happened was we were fifth graders, but those was
Yep.
eighth grade books.
Yep,
So
it was.
so it made when she used to read it, like once she read the first book. Then I was out of her class. It was the summertime, and I had my parents. I was like, "Dad, I need this book." So my dad
Yep,
started getting me
that
the
is
book,
so true.
and she made. I love the content so much. I started picking up better words, and it took my and in the sixth grade, I was reading at an eighth grade reading level.
Same.
I was killing them AR tests because I was taking Percy Jackson reading
Yeah,
things,
reading them
and I'm
shits.
getting all
Right.
the points.
You too.
And she exposed me
Yes.
to that type of reading, and it took me to another level. But it just came
Yes.
from I would have never by myself picked up that big ass book. They was like 300-page books. They were
Yes.
big books.
They were
And so
definitely.
me myself, I would have never did that. But the fact that she did that and she read it to us, that made me hungry to wanna read. And I was reading these books.
Yeah, and I
like I was
definitely-
eating
My
shit
mom
I
up.
motivated
definitely
me through
think-
sports,
Oh,
and that's
yes,
why I
see.
think
We
a
gotta-
lot of black we
That
got to get
too.
out of
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, we gotta
Yeah.
stimulate our
Yeah.
kids differently.
And
And
Yeah.
then like
Child is different.
definitely
But it definitely
bringing
helped
it,
me, though.
definitely
Yeah.
bringing it back to like what you were saying when it comes down to that your teacher's influence on you. Like I think that's what it kind of was for me throughout. I mean, even from the grades of kindergarten up to now, like I've always been like this person that I never had a problem reading a book just because I don't know, it's just always been easy for me to do it when it comes down to just being able to understand, being able to comprehend. I loved going outside of that world, my world, and going into another world, but it was like TV to me for some reason. But I think that the only reason why I liked it is because my teachers made me like it, and they took the things that they knew I liked and made me read about it and incorporated it. So like that's what it was. Like it was never like, I'm pretty sure if I got thrown a textbook in front of my face, I wouldn't have read that today. I just wouldn't have done it. but it was catered to me. It was catered to the stuff that she knew that I like. So eventually, by the time I got into high school, I was reading stuff that I should not have been reading at the age that I was.
Exactly.
But I was able to understand it. So I definitely agree that my vocabulary wouldn't even be what it is today if I had not read not one book, because it was seeing those words. It was definitely like my teachers always used to say, you need to read, you want to learn these words, you need to read. I never really grasp that thought until like now, because my vocabulary is not, I done got it from books that I done read. I can tell you that, like, it probably has not been any textbook that I have not read deeper than I've read plenty of other books I can tell you about to this day that I read like 5 years ago.
I feel like something too that can help too is stimulating content for children. Like what's been opening, I haven't been reading a lot of books. I'm just now getting into reading, but my vocabulary has been expanding a lot since I've been in school, because the content that I've been hearing, like the podcast, the shows I've been watching, the conversations I've been having, that has more than anything I've read expanded my vocabulary like tenfold. Like, so I think another thing in combined with reading, but also giving children stimulating content to hear. Like, you need to be hearing these things. You need to familiarize yourself with this type of content to help you, and that'll help you reading. Yeah,
I got one more last question for you, because it ties into something we talked about earlier. You got a unique name, right? Shaka.
Mm-hmm.
How has that helped you has that held you back when it comes to applying to schools, or even have they treated you different at your place of work because you have an Afrocentric name?
I mean, I could go a whole bunch of different ways with that. So first of all, my full name is Tushaka. And so growing up, I went to a private school all my life. And, all white kids. And so it was like the teachers used to mispronounce my name, and I hated it. I hated it growing
up. And they don't care when they do it.
Oh, they
everybody in class just started laughing. They don't care. How do you say it?
And I'm like, and it embarrassed me. You know what I'm saying? But as I got older, I realized that, first of all, that is a powerful name. My grandfather named me. And and I appreciated it. And it was crazy. Right now, the people that appreciate it more are foreigners and white people. They're always like, Tashaka, that's a powerful name. Like, and black people, they hear it, they're like, oh, yeah, Shaka, like Shaka Zulu.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought. I swear to God.
And so it's like, I believe, first of all, I believe people with interesting names have interesting lives, because you have to. I couldn't go work for a Fortune 500 company out the bat unless I was exceptional. You gotta be exceptional. You gotta name like that. You gotta be exceptional in whatever you do. And so, I ended up teaching, and I don't think it's necessarily held me back, but I mean, it was crazy, bro. Like even like we were talking about earlier, people respect Africans more, and they be thinking I'm African, and I'm not. That my running joke. I'm African American. I wish, but I love it now, bro. I love having that name. I love, I used to. The worst part for me was being in the club, man. You trying to holler at a girl? You like, what's your name? Shaka Shaka. That's your nickname. I say to Shaka. Okay.
So one thing you talked about. You just said you were in private school your whole life. So I want to, because I've been debating internally with myself. We talk about this all the time with, like, when you have your children private school versus public school. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like it enables certain people with private or public? Like, what's your take on it? And if you do have children, like, what would you do? Would you put them in a public school system or a private school system?
That's a great question, and it was crazy, but I still don't know yet. I do believe that, like y'all said, being at a private school, it gave me an advantage, you know what I'm saying, not only with relationships, but with my language. I was incredibly advanced, in terms of my language.
You was familiar with that testing language.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm around it every day. They're using it in normal conversation. And so I really, but I also graduated from Westlake, you know what I'm saying? And I grew up in the hood. I grew up in College Park. I'm from Atlanta. I'm born and raised here. So it's not like I wasn't exposed to the hood. I'm around that stuff every day when I go home. But I hated it when I was coming up. I used to want to get out of private school so bad. I told them I want to get out of here. I'm tired of it. Like, and in the hindsight, I'm like, man, private school saved my life, because I know the type of person that I am. I probably would have been out here in the streets. I would have been messed up. I would have been had a baby by now, 3 baby mamas. You know what I'm saying? But I thank God that I was in private school. And so even though I ended up leaving, the foundation was set. And I look at, like, even like religion,
that's what it is.
Religion sets your foundation, and I grew past it. But it's like I appreciate it. But at the same time, would I put my kids in private school? Man, like, I don't think so, only because I know I'm going to teach my children. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna teach my
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's the private school.
That makes a difference. It
But
does, it does.
peer
Yeah.
influence is so strong that you
Yeah.
have to have a good
We
solid
were saying
foundation. They
that.
know who they are. Is
Yeah,
by the
peer
time they get
influence
to
is
high school, middle school, they can handle themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
That-
thinking about doing it
Handle
with my kids for like till they get to like 5th,
That
6th
way-
grade.
and
Yeah,
that's
that's what we
Right.
said.
That's what was done to me.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
in private
that's-
school for up until I got out of elementary school.
Yeah, that's what I said a lot of times too when we had the conversation. I was like, I want my kids to build that foundation and learn those study habits and
Right.
learn that how to tackle problems and stuff like that.
Exposure.
Yeah,
Right.
at a younger age in that private school. Because Kayla even talked about it when she was up here.
She sure
was
did.
like setting that foundation at that private school
important.
and elementary school. That set her foundation to now she had graduated from Spelman and Morehouse.
Chemical
and-
engineering,
And
working
I
for
think
Exxon.
it too comes down to the parents because like my situation is I didn't start going to like private schools and stuff like that until earlier into my education. But younger, that was a form of discipline my father would do would be you got to read and you got to do a book report or something like that. That
That's
was his
good.
sense
That's
of-
a great
So
form of
I
discipline.
had parents that was educated.
Yeah.
My mother went to FAMU. My stepmom went to Clark. My father read millions of books. So I was always exposed to education and books even in the household. So I think it comes down to that exposure, creating
Yep.
that foundation,
Yep.
but it's also about the parents taking an initiative because I'm sure you
yeah.
see some students you got that their parents are probably not as active as other parents.
Some
and you
they
can
don't even
see-
know they don't have the skills to even
And
educate their
that's-
children.
and that's
at
the
house.
thing, too.
That's why I say
That's the thing,
exposure
too.
is important. We got to have more programs outside of school, after school, summer programs that are exposing them to new things, and that's what my program will be based on is exposure.
So we need a boot camp for the
Yeah.
parents too, then, huh?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it needs to be the whole community needs to be
Yeah.
educated.
Yeah.
Now,
Absolutely.
one thing I was talking about when we were planning for this show, I had said a lot of times too that we say a lot of times we need to expose our kids to more, but sometimes parents don't know those people in these different places. So it's on the people that are in those places to come back to the community.
Yeah,
it's not on the
definitely.
parents to expose a lot of times. It's also on the people that are in those places to come back and reach. And like people say a lot of times, you can't be what you can't see. And so let these kids know that there are investment bankers, there are astronauts that's black, there are people that's in politics, there are all of these things, and there's more than music and athletics and like the things that they see on TV and stuff like that. So I feel like we got to put a bigger emphasis on the people that are in these positions to come back and show the kids that, hey, this is possible.
Yes,
dope.
definitely.
Great
So
show,
the
man.
great show to end off. Great way to end off our show. So we're gonna definitely start off. Bring back our final thoughts to our show. Anybody have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say, me personally, I just want to say rest in peace to Greg Tigner, my close childhood friend of mine, passed this morning from
Man,
a
sorry to hear
gunshot
that.
wound. Yeah.
so sorry to hear that.
So, man, hey, Taylor, praying for y'all, praying for your kids. I just seen him in the hospital. So and he was recovering, I thought, you know what I mean? So make sure y'all tell y'all loved ones, man, that y'all love them, man, because they could be gone tomorrow.
Definitely. Anybody?
Well, it's my mom, my little brother's birthday, so I just want to say
yes,
happy birthday to them.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Shout out
birthday.
to them. But that's all.
My final thoughts. My final thoughts is to have fun this summer. I think definitely throughout our lives we get hit with so much stress and so much things that cause us turmoil. That just use this summer to relax, to cool out, and have fun and do what you want to do.
I'm gonna leave off by saying do something this summer that makes you uncomfortable. You can't grow if you're not in uncomfortable spaces. So do something that you're not used to doing.
Go skydiving.
Oh man, I don't have much to say. I just want to say thank y'all for having me on here. I enjoyed it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank
Definitely.
He watches the show.
Yeah.
you. Okay. You're a villager.
You a villager? We gonna put y'all on with that.
Yeah, we're gonna put y'all on with that a little later.
So this is your girl Jada. You can follow me on Instagram at @TheRealJadaDean.
I'm so sorry, bro. I just got off guard. This your boy One Tay. You can follow me on Instagram at _1TAE_.
Shaka. Follow me, Real Street Geek, all one word.
All right, this is your boy Thomas. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Thomas_JonesIV.
Hey, y'all can follow me at Joaquin_Ali. I know you're not to spell Joaquin.
And this is the Bill on
Y'all
Power
could've went
108.9. See y'all next week.
Yo.
One of y'all could have went wild.